Welcome to FX Options University, recorded live at the International Securities Exchange, the world's largest equity options exchange. Join the industry's top trading professionals as they provide insight and strategies for trading in the currency markets using FX options. FX options are a low-risk alternative to hedging currency moves in any market condition.
Now, maybe I'm pretty certain that it will cover my risk or close to cover my risk most of the time, but personally, those are ones that I tend to stay away from, but a lot of traders are perfectly happy doing so and happy trading it. So you're going to see these differences, and this is going to be a very personal choice for you, and it's going to be very important that you keep a trading journal to track what your trades are so that you can start to tweak them, and you'll be able to see by the trades that you're making how the traits that I'm going to talk about affects the outcome of the trades you're taking. If you print out a chart of every trade you're taking and you mark on that chart your entry and your exit, and you go through these building blocks, you're going to see patterns developing in your trades, and you'll be able to use those patterns to make judgments on future action. This is what I do a lot in my one-on-one mentoring. We go through individual traders' performance, and we develop strategies that suit their personality, not me imposing my trading system on them, but rather using my system of building blocks of price development to tweak their own trading based upon their personality. So let's go through some of these building blocks here. The three that I consider the most important building blocks of price development are the support and resistance levels, pace and momentum, and trend development and trend placement. And I'm going to go through each of these one at a time. Support and resistance. The main thing to keep in mind with this is that support and resistance levels are price zones in the market where security is liable to react in some manner that affects the trend that is in play as those levels hit. Now, the key word in this entire slide is zones. A lot of people will see, let's say 100 is a resistance level. Well, a retest of that zone means it could be trading at 99.85, or it could be trading at 100.23, and it can still be considered to be in that zone of support or resistance, depending on what the range of price action is on the time frame you're looking at and the momentum that goes into these support and resistance levels. And I'm kind of skipping ahead here, but you're going to see how these all weave together and form this larger picture. A couple of the key types of support and resistance zones, and again, these are just some of them that are out there, are going to be key numbers, again, like 100, previous highs and lows, prior zones of congestion. This is one that often gets overlooked. If you have a trading range, for example, and you've got a breakout higher out of that trading range, then when it pulls back into that trading range, that zone is going to be a support level. And this is where a lot of traders run into problems, because when they're taking a breakout, let's say the upper end of a congestion zone is 100, and they buy a setup over 100. Well, an entry of like 100.05 or something. And it breaks out. It moves higher, but not enough for them to take their gains. And so they'll have moved their stops to break even. But what will happen often is they will come back into that zone of congestion, meaning it will pull back under 100 and actually trade in that congestion itself as a support level before it bounces back out of it. I'll actually draw on the slide here quickly, give you an idea. If here is our zone for our breakout, let's change this to a pencil if possible. And it's just trading back and forth in this, breaks out higher. Well, when it comes back into the zone here, if it's been bouncing back and forth in this level, the middle of this congestion is often going to serve as a support level. And so it'll allow it to help kind of bounce back out of that. Another thing is going to be gap levels, and we see this frequently on the FX options. You'll see gaps overnight. And also equal or measured moves. And this is a concept you might not be familiar with, and I'll go into this here in a little bit more detail in just a moment. Here's a chart. This is a recent chart of the CDD. And for those of you that are looking at the CDD, this is the U.S. dollar, Canadian dollar. So we're looking at the U.S. dollar as the base and the Canadian dollar as your counter currency here. And we're looking at these support and resistance levels on this chart. And one of the things to look at here are previous highs, such as this high right here. This serves as a resistance level when it's retested, which you can see happening over here. Now, a key point to this is that if you look at this overall price move, notice we have sort of this V bottom that's formed. Previous highs and previous lows tend to hold the best when you have similar momentum moves back and forth going from one level to a low and then back again. So we have this drop here and then this V sort of bottom. And when you see that happen, that's when you know that there's a higher chance that this previous high is going to serve as a strong resistance level. And we see the same type of thing happening down here, where we had an initial low, a V type of top, or an inverted V, and so then it comes back into that previous low, and that zone serves as a support zone. I'm going to go ahead and clear this here. And you can see this a little bit more clearly now. Now, if we look at a couple of other types of support and resistance, this gap one is a little bit difficult to see because I kind of accidentally covered up it, but it had a close right here, and it actually had opened up again here, right in the middle of that B. So let me change the coloring here, make this a little bit clearer. So we had the closing here, it opened up here, and when it came back in and closed or filled that gap, that served as a support zone. So the actual closure of the gap was a support level. Here's the congestion that we looked at earlier, where we had a lot of trading back and forth in September, congestion zone, and this served as a resistance level after it broke back down and pulled back up. We also have the previous highs because we have this V type of bottom. If this had been a less extreme rally off of that low and had pulled up more gradually, we wouldn't have seen it actually retest that previous high as likely. It more likely would have came into the middle of this congestion zone, held that level, and then turned back lower. So oftentimes when you're dealing with these congestion levels, the middle of that congestion is the strongest resistance. We just had a stronger pace or stronger momentum move off of this low that allowed it to recover a little bit more strongly than you would see in many cases. Again, this is, you're hearing me touch upon things like the momentum and pace, and this is something that we're going to talk about next. But another type of support and resistance zone are these key numbers or these whole numbers. And in CDD, 100 here is always going to be a key point. So you'll see it held that almost exactly in October, and it came back into that again this week as well. So we're seeing this test of number support or resistance. You'll see this a lot more clearly in some securities over others. Stocks, for example, have a very strong tendency to move towards these whole number levels. We're seeing things, like the 1200 in the S&P 500. That's been something that has been followed very, very closely as well. Another type of support and resistance are equal moves, or what I call measured or equal moves. And these are going to be levels that you're going to see a lot. I have a couple of people here posting that they don't have any sound. Can everybody else hear me? Okay, great. Why don't you go ahead, and you might need to log out and log back in and check your speakers, and hopefully that will go ahead and correct it.
Thank you for participating in this week's session. Please join us again next week. Get trading ideas, exchange rates, webinars, news, and commentary. Visit www.fxoptions.com. ISE FX options can be easily traded through all options-enabled brokerage accounts. These exchange-listed securities are cash-settled in U.S. dollars and have a European-style exercise.